When people refuse to even have the conversation, when people label one another before hearing their opinions, that's when you start to see people who could otherwise have a really civil discourse start to move farther and farther and farther apart from one another. So then that gap doesn't even seem bridgeable anymore.
Some people have one idea to fix one problem, someone has another idea. You guys can disagree and come to a solution that benefits everything and everybody.
The nature of criticism, I think, is dialogical. And if you're writing in such a way where things grow static, thought stops moving and dialogue effectively ceases. And then I think what eventually happens is you get left with something called an ideology, which is, in my mind, a sort of caricature of reality that doesn't really depict the complexities of reality. So you got to go back to the hard work of disagreement, potentially.
When you interact with somebody, you get a lot out of them. So just because you believe in something and somebody else believes in something different doesn't mean you're either both right or both wrong.
If we want to have a diversity of opinions, then clearly there's going to be some form of disagreement that is at least necessary initially before we start working towards a hopefully consensual view of things.
Through disagreement, you get different points of view on things and you get different ideas come up, and sometimes you can find better ways to do things and better ways to go about things.
You can hurdle over the barriers when you don't understand maybe like a situation from someone else's perspective. Having disagreements kind of just makes you learn more.
It spawns innovation, challenges the status quo, leads to increase in productivity, which lead to happier lives for everyone.
Sometimes the most difficult thing about engaging in disagreement is dealing with the people who are safeguarding dominant narratives. When you're trying to bring something, a different kind of idea to a political stage, you face all kinds of opposition because there's a framework for understanding politics that's already accepted, right? So when you're bringing an idea that fundamentally disagrees with that framework, you come up against media narratives that are against you, you come up against other politicians, big money interests. So the thing about disagreement that's sometimes the hardest is being able to actually get to a point where the disagreement is an equal footing, like where there's a chance for the people who actually disagree to do that.
I think in the South, like 20 to 30% at one point owned slaves, and without disagreement, that would still be the same. The status quo would never change.
We're taught that it is not a positive thing. And I think we're taught that because it's usually viewed as the opponent of cooperation.
I think in general, I would be suspicious of any collective group that was moving in a direction, even if it was a direction that I felt comfortable with and there wasn't disagreement.
If we don't challenge science and peer review articles, like we're not gonna, reaffirm what we're arguing. And if we don't, disagree with what other people are doing, we're not gonna challenge their, school of thought and improve on that.
Everyone has different perspectives and, things that have influenced them to think a certain way. So obviously everyone's gonna come at problems from, different angles. And obviously that's gonna lead to some disagreement, but I think it's a really healthy thing, honestly, because it really gets like the different viewpoints out and you can kind of reach a logical conclusion of, okay, why does someone think this way? What has led them to think this way? And it can also help you reevaluate your opinions on things.
Everyone that you deal with is a human being, even despite the fact that you may have complete and total disagreement with them. Is to forget that element is it's cause for anxiety.
We all come from different backgrounds, we have different experiences, and when that happens, you realize that you need to understand other people's perspectives to understand what it is that they are looking for in their lives, to understand that there are places where you have very similar outlooks on things, so that you can build those bridges to help in a myriad of situations.
There's always going to be people who have different beliefs and different opinions, and it's overcoming that disagreement that's essential to building a community with people.
A sense of being able to see and imagine and inhabit somebody else's reality and way of being in the world, even if for yourself that would be deemed to be something that wasn't sustainable.
It's fine to have a disagreement with someone. It's often the way that you present your side of things that's going to say whether or not someone's going to listen to what you say or they're just going to disregard it.
What we really need is a space for people to gather, to recognize one another as people, and to have to be held accountable to what they say and believe. Understand where the other side is coming from. Understand necessarily there aren't two sides. There might be more, there might be none. It's a grayscale rather than black and white. Yeah, and just to allow people to see the other side as human.
You can have conflict and it's not constructive, and it's not respectful, and it's not critical, like you're not actively achieving anything. But if you're going to disagree and challenge each other, then you can do that in a respectful way, and you can do that proactively, and you can achieve things from that.